So let's get into keys to victory, Alex. Want to do 3 apiece, and I'd be a horrible host if I didn't let you go first. So what are the keys to victory for the Cardinals against the Dolphins?
Number one, first and foremost, the offense needs to hum. This is a Kyler Murray needs to be special moment. I've gotten a lot of crap for saying that all Kyler Murray needs to do this year is be an elevated game manager who makes special plays when necessary. And that's what he did against the Chargers. 45-yard touchdown run. He let him down on the game-winning drive to win the game at the end of the game. He needs to be better. He needs to be better. He needs to be more effective, and he needs to get Marvin Harrison Jr. involved. That's not a key to victory for me, getting Marvin Harrison Jr. involved. This offense would be fine without Marvin Harrison Jr. The fact that they have him is a bonus. And I think that that's something that just needs to be mentioned because, that's where we're at, and it's going to take him a little time to get acclimated. But Kyler Murray starts and ends with him. Number two, it's a 1A really, is they have to have some sort of semblance of pass rush. Now, whether this is Max Melton off the edge, whether this is Budda Baker and Jalen Thompson with safety blitz packages, the Cardinals need to get into Tua's kitchen. It doesn't need to be with sack totals. It's got to be pressures. It's got to get him off schedule, because if he doesn't get off schedule, Tyreek Hill is going to remind everybody why he's probably the best receiver on the planet. And then if you're not reminded by that, Jalen Waddle is going to remind you why he's one of the fastest wide receivers in the game, great hands, and can break up a 75-yarder at any moment. And then the third one with that is they cannot give up the big play. Let Devon Achane, let Raheem Mostert get their 4 or 5 yards a carry at most, but keep everything in front of you. The Cardinals defense is not equipped to give up chunk plays for touchdowns that puts the offense on their heels, 3 and out, defense back on the field. That is a nightmare scenario for the Cardinals. So those 3, Kyler Murray needs to be elite. The pass rush needs to get home at least once or twice to rattle Tua a little bit. And then you can't give up the big play to Tyreek and Jalen Waddle specifically.
Yeah. For me in Miami, it's as simple as, number one, Tua Tagovailoa has to play. If Tua doesn't play, I mean, they just picked CJ Beathard up as another because Tyler Huntley, who's started the last 3 games, he's now hurt. And Skylar Thompson started against Seattle, and he got hurt in the second half of that game. So you just kind of have this merry-go-round that's exhausting. Yeah. The Dolphins did this when these two teams, or when they had to play without Tua in 2022 as well, where like you would a stretch of like 4 straight times where the same quarterback that started the game did not finish the game. So if you can get Tua Tagovailoa back, get him out of concussion protocol, it gives you a functional passing offense, which they have not had, and it's been frankly inexcusable to still have Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle and the ability to run the football. I know Jonnu Smith the past 2 weeks has really emerged. To have all of that happening and to average like 145 passing yards a game is just awful. And that's where they've been. So Tua has played 7 quarters, less than 7 quarters, and he still has more than 100 passing yards than any of the other quarterbacks that have played. And there's been 3 of them thus far this season. And it's week 8. So Tua has to play. That's the first thing. I think the next thing for me, aside of finishing with Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill not finishing for combined 3 touches, which is what they did against the Colts, but that goes into Tua playing. I'd love to see more of Jalen Wright, the 4th-round rookie running back who did a really nice job against the Colts or against the Patriots, and then came out after the bye, coming out of the bye with Devon Achane back. And Jalen Wright got 6 snaps, not 6 touches, 6 snaps. And Wright has the explosiveness of Raheem Mostert and Devon Achane, but he's a bigger player. And like when Miami has had success, especially against the Colts, they were getting dirty yards. They were running between the tackles a little bit more as compared to being the finesse outside zone, get out on the edge. They've really struggled with their wide receivers blocking out on the perimeter to get them the edge in those plays. So I would love to see a more physical runner take some of that workload so that you can turn as the game goes on. 4-yard gains can become 7-yard gains. And Jalen Wright's been really close to popping a couple runs for explosive runs too. So that's one big thing for me. And then on defense, I would say, especially with Kyler and the athleticism that he has, the Dolphins have had a lot of really impactful and effective fire zone blitzes and DBs coming out of the nickel, kind of getting free runs at the quarterback. That's been more over the last 2 weeks, Jalen Ramsey. I would love to see Ramsey have a prominent role in that regard in this game as well. I think he had uh, five pass rush reps in this past game, and he had pressures on like 3 of them. Jeez. So it's like that's been something that's worked for them. And the Dolphins edge group is really banged up. Doesn't sound like Bradley Chubb's coming back off of PUP for this game and having his practice window open. So they'll be without him for another week. They should have Emmanuel Ogbah back. But those DB fire zone pressures being something where you want to play zone and be able to have eyes on the quarterback anyway because he has the threat to run. So take advantage of that, try to manipulate the numbers and the protection to get a free runner and have it be an athletic player that can actually finish that rep with a chance to get Kyler on the ground.
I think that's fair. I mean, I think that's all. I'm terrified. I mean, the Cardinals have shown that they can win ugly because they've won ugly, which is something that teams that are growing can't usually do. It's usually you lose by a little. It's hard to win by a little. And I think that that's what the Cardinals have shown in their 2 wins, in their last 2 wins this year, that they can do. So going on the road, hopefully cramps aren't an issue with the Cardinals. I mean, is that something that's, as we get out of here, I mean, is that something that visiting teams deal with every week? I mean, I don't have the pulse on it.
Yeah, and any Western New York fans that are listening are going to throw rocks at me, but because they get so mad about this. The way that the stadium and the canopy is engineered, the last thing on the field to leave the sun is the visitor sideline. And they did that on purpose, and it's usually around 3:15, 3:30 that the shade finally gets over there. So you spend not only the field where you're playing in the humid heat, but then you come over to the sideline and you have to sit unless you bring all that equipment over with the fans and the tents and all the stuff and put them over the benches. You sit in the sun too. And it is definitely something. It's been a big part of the reason why Miami has had the home field successes that they have had, particularly in the Mike McDaniel era, where they've been able to score points and kind of force you to strain late in games. And it has taken over. So it is definitely an X factor to watch for these two teams.